Rồi, xin chào tất cả các quý vị. Các bạn đang theo dõi buổi livestream của IELTS Smartcom ngày hôm nay. Thì mình là Long và ngay bên cạnh mình ở đây ngày hôm nay chúng ta có thầy Ben William. Và ngày hôm nay thì chúng ta cũng sẽ tiếp tục với chủ đề IELTS Speaking, học thuộc càng nhiều càng dễ mất điểm. Và thầy Ben của chúng ta ngày hôm nay sẽ tiếp tục nói về cái chủ đề này và làm như thế nào để có thể tránh học thuộc và ứng dụng IELTS Speaking làm sao để dễ đạt được ban điểm mà mình mong muốn. Rồi, chắc là mình cũng sẽ không nói quá nhiều về chủ đề này nữa nhé. Chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu tiếp tục ngay bây giờ. Xin mời thầy Ben hãy cùng đến với IELTS Speaking từ buổi hôm trước. Alright, Ben, your turn.
All right. Hello. Welcome back. Just to give you an idea what we're doing in this session, we are going to be continuing on from where we left off last week. There's a lot of stuff in speaking that we have covered, but there's a lot more yet to cover. And so if we do that in detail and take it, slowly and clearly and answer your questions, we may not get to the end of it this session either. That's not the point. It's not a question of speed. It's a question of let's get the information. And also, to whatever wherever we store the documents, and then you can download them.
Okay. All right. Well, let's begin. Nào, chúng ta
Oh,
bắt đầu.
oh, did you tell them what I said?
Rồi thì tức là ý của thầy
Basically.
Ben là hôm nay chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu tiếp tục đến với cái chủ đề IELTS Speaking đang bị bỏ dở ở buổi trước, và cũng như là những cái điều cần lưu ý. Thì thầy Ben cũng đã có nói qua là thầy Ben cũng sẽ cung cấp những cái tài liệu bản Word để ở trên cái đường link comment ở trên phía dưới Facebook để cho các bạn học sinh có thể vào để xem thêm và hiểu thêm, và nó cũng đã được dịch sang tiếng Việt rồi thì phải. Rồi, vậy thì nếu không còn vấn đề gì nữa thì bây giờ chúng ta bắt đầu luôn nhá. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ nhường lại sân khấu cho thầy Ben để thầy tiếp tục nói về IELTS Speaking. Ok, các bạn chờ mình một xíu nha. Mình đang đây. Rồi. Ok. Right, Ben, let's begin.
Oh, we're ready?
Yeah. Ready.
Okay. So continuing on where we left off last week, I've been talking a lot about memorization and memorized examples and stuff. And I want to continue with that as we move on, because this is really, getting to be an issue.
All right, man. Let's go on. Sorry about the issue.
Oh, don't apologize to me. It's the listeners,
Okay.
Technical issues still. All right, so we're moving on. So let's talk about this part. We're talking about idioms. So here's an example of what they are, okay? And I mentioned this last week. Idioms, clear idioms that we're going to be showing on the screen, are considered by examiners to be cliches. If you're a Band 5 candidate and you use once in a blue moon or whatever, that's fine. That'll, maybe used accurately will keep you in, up to a band 6. But I'm talking about band 7s now. So once in a blue room simply means rarely, if ever. I would much prefer as examiner that you use rarely or if ever instead of once in a blue moon. It's just, old. The ball is in your court. So why can't we just say it's up to you? Because that in itself is also an idiomatic expression. And I mentioned this last week. The band descriptors do not say idioms. They say idiomatic items and idiomatic expressions. It's up to you is an idiomatic expression, whereas the ball is in your court or once in a blue moon is a way, way out of date. The ones that you've learned are way out of date. And like I said before, examiners don't like these cliches. All right, so these are just examples. Break a leg. Okay, it means, so good luck is, polite, and go for it is also idiomatic. Right? Much better than break a leg. Not my cup of tea. Tiresome, cliche. The descriptors for band 7 specifically say, all right, not just idiomatic items and idiomatic expressions, but uncommon idiomatic items and, idiomatic expressions. So not this old stuff, not this cliche stuff. You do have to go a bit beyond this. And if you go with these idiomatic expressions that I'm showing you on the screen, like it's up to you, go for it. I mean, they're idiomatic expressions and they're more natural, right? And so that's going to get you a better score. Let me get it. So instead of idioms, you can also use phrasal verbs. Over to you if you have anything to explain.
Yeah,
No.
I think they can understand. Yeah,
Yeah?
just go
Okay.
on.
All right. So phrasal verbs are pretty helpful. And the next little documents that you see are designed, part 1, part 2, part 3. So I quite like these things. There are many, many more, but it gives you an idea of what you can do. So 15 phrasal verbs, part 1. So these are personal, everyday kind of topics. And the vocabulary is be into, keen on, head out, stay in. Who knew? Stay in is good. Get along with. And there's the definition, and there's the example sentence. All right, so I'm really into rock climbing. Right, I've never really been keen on. Head out. I usually head out after work to meet friends, stay in. During the week, I tend to stay in instead of saying I stay at home. Staying at home. Instead of going out, you just say stay in and get along with. I think everybody knows, so that's a pretty basic one. But these kind of things, are really good, all right? Because this is it. These are idiomatic expressions, they're phrasal verbs, but they're also considered idiomatic expressions by IELTS and by the examiner. And in part 2, all right, remember you're telling a story. You're supposed to be showing the examiner that you can create a narrative out of the experience you're being asked to describe, right? So call off, cancel something. We had to call off the trip because the weather, was bad. Turn up, run out of. We ran out of petrol, or in the middle of the nowhere, or, oh my goodness, we ran out of milk and we had to run to the store to get some. End up, we got lost, but ended up finding an amazing cafe, or, we really could, doing the best we can, and we were experiencing our issues and our problems, so we ended up, all right, getting the results that we needed. Look forward to. I think that's pretty common, and a lot of use that. And our final one in part 3. So this is the abstract ideas and analysis that you have to think about, figure out, cut down on, stem from, boil down to, play a role in. So these are basic, and they're and doing dozens and dozens and dozens doesn't kind of work. But, selecting items that you can use. And the only way that you get to use these naturally, I mean, some people use them or memorize them, but it doesn't sound natural. The only way to get this stuff down and sound natural is use it when you speak English. You should be speaking English more. You should be talking to your friends who have English and talking to, foreigners, and getting this stuff, up here into long-term memory only happens when you repeat it and you practice it. Otherwise, it's short-term memory. That doesn't really help you. So when it goes into the when using and repeating, right, it becomes natural speaking.
Rồi, ok. Thì hồi nãy thầy Ben cũng có nói qua về những cái trường hợp mà mình dùng idiom, mà thường là những cái idiom mà nó rất là cổ xưa và gần như là hiện tại ở trong hội thoại hàng ngày thì người ta không sử dụng nữa. Thầy cũng có khuyến cáo là nếu mà sử dụng những cái thành ngữ như thế này thì cũng phải rất là cân nhắc, cẩn thận. Và ngoài ra thầy cũng có đề xuất thêm một vài những cái phrasal verb mà mình hoàn toàn có thể dùng trong IELTS speaking, gồm có là những cái phrasal verb của part 1, part 2 và part 3. Thì những cái từ vựng này cũng đã có ở trong file doc khá là chi tiết và rõ ràng rồi. Thì sau buổi livestream này thì mọi người của thầy Ben. Alright, Ben, let's go on.
Yep. So what we're doing, so we've introduced the idea that idioms are not what's real. So now we're doing so all of the things that are coming now, items and idiomatic expressions which are included in the band score, rather part 1 answers. So sometimes we'll just go through this, fairly quickly. This is related to transportation, but if the question they use to memorize the answer, the answer sounds off. To give it, do people in your country prefer to use public transport? Memorized. It starts with something that, is not a direct answer. Giving a description of Australia. Australia is a diverse country, and due to hectic schedules, people, use a variety of transport options. That's not a direct answer, and, it's kind of like stalling. Just like in my hometown, it has all the facilities. Where are you going?
Ok, rồi. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we'll try to go on and we'll try to do something with this microphone, and you'll bless it. Keep on. Okay. Yes. So harder questions, yeah? The examiner may stop you and switch to harder, unexpected questions to test your real level. They don't have any choice. That's what they have to do. And this is particularly true in part 3. It can happen, in part 1, but they don't usually. Because part 3 is the game changer and is a really, really important part of your speaking test, this is where the really hard questions, come in. Unnatural phrasing, the speech sounds wooden, robotic. Robotic is certainly a signal for memorization. No proper intonation and stress and stuff like that. All right. So what does that mean? So we've got these band descriptors, so we'll just go briefly. So if you look at fluency and coherence, right down here, and we can also look at, because I want at 6. So I'm looking at 6 and 7. Okay, I'm not worried about band 5 or band 8 or something like that. The majority of candidates are, somewhere between 6 and 7. And, what you need to secure that. Because band 7, oh, I can't go back, can I? Yes, I can. No, I can't. So I can't go back, right?
You can.
There it is. Okay. So band 7, I think we need to understand that band 7, the criteria for band 7 is expecting a much higher level of overall English proficiency and fluency. It's definitely a step above. It's easier to go from a 5 to a 6.5 than it is to go from a 6.5 to a 7. It's just the way it is. So we were talking about some of the stuff. So we'll just slip through this because we will come back to it from time to time. But fluency and coherence, for example, in band 7, you're able to keep speaking and produce, good, longer answers without noticeable effort. And that is the problem if you, in band 6, you're able to keep going and you're willing to speak and produce longer terms, longer turns, all right? But you do it with a lot of effort and maybe pauses and trying to think of, the words you need or the grammar or the vocabulary. So that's a big difference between 6 and 7. If you can speak effortlessly, right, and you don't have the hesitations and you speak at length, right, then fluency and coherence, you're in band 7. If you do it and it takes effort, and it takes an effort on behalf of the examiner to comprehend, okay, what it is you're saying, then you stay at a band 6. So that's just it for that. And we'll go through these other items in the band score description descriptors as we go through the session. So I'm just talking about fluency and coherence right now. Now, the other part is, notice band 6. Right? Do you see so you don't see anything there, really about idioms. You see paraphrase if you can, but the vocabulary may be inappropriate, meaning is maybe okay. It's sufficient to discuss topics at length. So if you can talk about a bunch of topics, and maybe it's not quite so clear with your choice of words, and you do show, your ability to paraphrase a little bit, then that's okay. Now look at band 7. All right, so using your vocabulary, flexibly use it to discuss a variety of topics. Really don't have a problem with any topic. Now, here's this part. Some ability, magic word, it says some. Doesn't say all the time. You're not a band 8 or a band 9. It's some ability to use less common, right? Less common, uncommon, and idiomatic items, and an awareness of style, collocation is evident, even though, it's not perfect. Effective use of paraphrase. But notice that this is where band 7, this is where the idiomatic items and expressions start showing up. And you'll notice in band 8 and 9 how much they rely on those. Right? Skillful use of less common idiomatic items, occasional inaccuracies, but skillful use of. Band 9, sustained use of accurate and idiomatic language. Band 7, some ability to use less common. So that basically means that by the time you get to band 7, 8, and 9, okay, you should throw the cliches out of the window. You don't need cliche idioms. In fact, you can get a band 7, a band 8, and a band 9 without using a single idiom. You just use idiomatic items and idiomatic expressions. So go ahead, because I'll move on. And like I said, we'll deal with this bit by bit. But I wanted to do those two things because that's what we were talking about. Fluency, coherence, lexical resource. That's where your idiomatic expressions come in. Yeah. All right. So there's a difference between idiomatic expressions and idioms. The band descriptors, like I said, all right, mention idiomatic items, idiomatic language. The actual term idioms is not mentioned in the band descriptors. So can we forget about them? I hope so. What do I mean by idioms? I mean all of those old cliches. burning the midnight oil, once in a blue moon, if pigs could fly. No, all right? Just eliminate them. Too many candidates focus on learning lists of idioms, which are usually out of date and which would not usually or be used by native speakers in typical conversation. Remember, you're having a conversation, all right, a dialogue with the examiner. So we want it to be natural, and using forced old cliches isn't it. And the examiner can tell they're memorized because they're so old, they come from an old list of idioms. So it doesn't do your speaking any favor by keep on running over them. Over the moon, not my cup of tea, burning the midnight oil, once in a blue moon are examples of idioms that should be avoided because the examiner view them as cliches, overused and unnatural in modern conversations, and may lower your score since examiners are not impressed by memorized idioms, all right? And you can get band scores 7, 8, and 9 without using a single idiom. You can't get 7, 8, and 9 without using idiomatic expressions, but you don't need to use an idiom. So the other ones that we just looked at, phrasal verbs, formulaic expressions and chunks, short figurative phrases are required for the higher band scores in lexical resource because they show off, okay, your fluency and vocabulary range. These are examples of idiomatic language that that we could use, and I'm going to continue that theme. Okay. By the way, you should change your topic. By the way, have you finished your homework? By the way, that reminds me of one more thing I need to discuss with you. By the way, on another note, it's used to introduce a new idea, and it's similar to by the way. On another note, how's your new job? Oh, you gave a very good report. On another note, did you ever hear back from the UK customer? At all. They're kind of useful. This is uncommon. Nice expression used in negatives for emphasis. I don't like spicy food at all. That's not at all what I had in mind. Have you got anything else? At all. Nice. Very short. I think it's quite easy to, incorporate that into your conversational, speaking. For good, meaning permanently, I moved to the countryside in 2012 for good, forever. That's where I want to be. We got rid of the pests for good once the exterminators sprayed the cottage. So we got rid of the pests, the insects, for good, permanently, and for good, forever, that kind of thing. So that's where for good comes from. As a matter of fact, to emphasize or contradict. As a matter of fact, I'm from Canada, not from the United States. You're clarifying.
Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact. For sure, I actually use this quite a lot when I'm speaking. Express a strong opinion. We'll win this match for sure, being very optimistic and strong. Oh, for sure, this plan is a recipe for disaster. For sure. Just stating how strongly my opinion is. Fair enough is also another one. It's pretty good. To accept another person's view. So sometimes, you go to people's house or something, or you're in a restaurant and somebody offers you a drink, which means, like beer or alcohol. Sorry, I don't drink, but I'll have a soda. Oh, fair enough. Meaning, oh, okay. I accept that's your opinion, that's your feelings of food. Or I have a policy of not discussing religion or politics. Okay, fair enough. For the time being, for now, temporarily. So, well, look, you can stay here for the time being while the painters finish decorating your new house. or for the time being, you can work on these files until the project manager, comes back from lunch or whatever that. Okay. I'm afraid not. A polite way to say no. Can we meet tomorrow morning? I'm afraid not. I'll be out of town until Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. Are you available to volunteer at the concert next week? I'd like to, but I'm afraid not. We're attending our son's graduation from university that weekend. I see what you mean. To show understanding. We are finding it very difficult to attract skilled workers this year, so we are understaffed. Yeah, I see what you mean. And I get it, which has the same thing. You used to show understanding. So now you know the reason why we can't increase your department's budget. Yeah, I get it. Makes more sense to find ways to reduce costs. Finally, okay, this is part of the pronunciation thing. Connected speech is also what the examiner is, looking for. All right, and these surprisingly are considered idiomatic expressions. They come up in pronunciation, but they're also considered, idiomatic expressions because you'll speak much more, like a native speaker. So it's called elision. Connected speech is necessary to show natural speaking and raise the band score to 7 and higher. So common examples. Yeah. I have to go now. We don't say I have to go now. We don't usually be that clear. I have to go now. Have to. Forgot to. Yeah. I've got to go. I gotta. Shoulda, should have. I should have done that. No, I should have done that. And the little things like this, fish and chips. So what did you have for dinner? What would you like for lunch? Oh, I would like some fish and chips. Well, we don't speak like that. Put it all together. It's called an elision, fish and chips. So this helps two areas of your skill set, right? It'll be idiomatic expressions, idiomatically, spoken in a lexical resource, and it'll be also noted for your pronunciation. So that's a healthy thing to do. Yeah. Okay, I get asked, can I use slang? It kind of depends. We don't want to use offensive language. Okay. And the ones here, these are okay. Just don't overuse them. Phrases like a nerd, a smart person. So you can call a person a nerd. A jock, a sports enthusiast. That's a bit old. But, occasionally use. An oddball, somebody who's a kind of a unique person. And a jerk, somebody who's annoying or disagreeable. So you could use phrases like that. It's kind of okay. Using casual modifiers. Again, it needs to be naturally spoken. Super, totally awesome. I'm super into Formula One racing. The movie has some awesome special effects. That's okay. But and of course you pronounce them, you emphasize them. And then we have casual verb phrasings, all right, which we can use. Things like, okay, I go. It's time to eat lunch now. Okay, I need to grab a bite for lunch. I nailed it. Instead of I did it perfectly. How was it? How was the test? Oh, I nailed it. I did great. I blew it. Instead of I made a big mistake. Oh, how did the test go this morning? I blew it. I forgot about whatever the heck it was. So, there are some slang, and I'm not sure why slangs is there. That should be slang. Okay, that doesn't matter. It's cool. Everybody makes mistakes.
I see a
Even me.
question here. Like,
Yep.
if I stop for 3 seconds, will I lose many marks?
Once, no. But if you make it a habit, 3 seconds, possibly. But let's be clear, this is okay. Examiners, do have some flexibility here. And if you pause, you're asked a question and then you need to give an answer. How long can you pause before you give the answer? And usually I would say in the time that it takes a breath. Well, because that's what we do sometimes.
Like
Naturally.
we stop to think of ideas.
Well, yeah, but but not even to say it's just natural. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do this evening? Well, I think I'm going to. That's it. So it's it's a natural, all right, hesitation or pause. Just to take a breath, and that's not a problem. And you mentioned, and the person has mentioned 3 seconds. No, I mean that's fine. You take a breath.
Okay.
It's probably no more than about 2 seconds. 3 seconds is not an issue. It's the long pause, particularly, and it's also the way that you look. If they ask you a question and you go, pause, no, that's not going to be very helpful.
Yeah.
Way too long.
It's so clear.
So natural pauses that we have in conversation, no, don't worry about it. If they're extended, then there's a problem.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
Let's go on.
There.
All right.
And then we have the other one.
Yeah, we have the other one.
Right. So if anybody wants to mention anything now, we can do that, or we can move on, because we're going to be doing.
Well, I can see one more question.
Yeah.
Like, how can I stop translating from Vietnamese to English in my head?
How?
How can I stop translating from Vietnamese to English in my head?
Why are you translating Vietnamese to English?
Well, maybe.
Or do you mean taking the question, which is in English, and trying to translate it into Vietnamese so that you come up with an answer?
Well, yeah, this is also my problem when I try to learn speaking. I always try to, I think of a sentence in Vietnamese, and then I try to translate the Vietnamese sentence into English, and then I try to say the English. So this doesn't ensure, the grammatical structure, and it can cause a fault in the grammar. So how can I stop translating from Vietnamese to English like that?
Well, that just means a whole bunch of practice.
Okay.
Right? And speaking to yourself in front of the mirror before you speak to somebody else. When I was learning French, it was the same thing. And what we decided, and what I did with that, is that when I heard a question, I didn't think specifically about the translation. I specifically sort of, here's the question. What's the verb here? The verb tense, the nouns, just to get through it. Keep practicing that, and don't be concerned. Because we would automatically, translate a lot of stuff. So translation isn't a bad thing. It's a question of, and I think this is where the question meant, is I think the question is, how long does it take you to translate?
Yeah, it's all about practice.
Yeah.
Okay. Tóm lại tập nhớ bạn trai nhé. All right. Now let's move on to the next PowerPoint. Now let's go.
All right. So in this part, how are we doing for time? All right. All right. So in this part, and I think we can get through this without a problem. What I've done is I've taken the each of these skill sets, and I'm posing this statement: fluency, what it means to an IELTS speaking examiner. Maybe not what you think. So let's deal with that. And then I'll go on to coherence, and then lexical resource, this type of thing, right? This is all it is. To an IELTS examiner, all right, to speak at a natural, continuous pace without noticeable effort, excessive pausing, hesitating, or unnatural repetition or self-correction. That, in a nutshell, is what fluency is. Right? So, speak at a natural, continuous pace without noticeable effort, not stumbling, not kind of looking up and trying to remember the word or trying to remember the grammar point, all right? But smooth flowing, response, naturally, nice, and that's what continuous pace means. It means smooth flowing, not jumping, stop, up, going again. Excessive pausing, hesitating. So a pause is longer. A hesitation is, oh, that's when you're trying to think of something. Pausing is, too long between, answering the question, and unnatural repetition or self-correction. So, and then I did this about, 3 weeks. No, it wasn't. No, it must have been a month ago. Those kind of things. So that's basically what we're talking about here. All of these items need to be nicely delivered. And fluency is comprised of these 4 main components. Pacing, speaking smoothly and evenly without rushing. You should avoid long periods of silence when thinking of what to say. So that's the easy one. Smooth, right, and evenly, don't rush. I think people who are who feel that they're really fluent and they can speak English really well, their answers really get speeded up, and they really like to speak the language, and it goes on and it goes on, and this is fine and this is fine and that is fine. Too fast. Okay. But don't rush it. Pull it back a little bit. You're having a conversation. This is not a person you know well, right? This is the examiner. I think with your friend, you'd probably speak a lot faster, but a little slower, all right? It's nice and polite, and you'll articulate, express your words, much more clearly if you do that. Willingness to speak. All right. So the band descriptors mentioned willingness to speak, willing to speak at length. And that's what it means. Expanding your answers naturally rather than relying on short, disjointed responses. Expanding your answers naturally. And this means like speaking without effort. All right. Willing to speak at length. If you have really short answers and they're disjointed, it's that your response is no longer smooth, it's jerky, and that's kind of distracting for the listener. So here we go. Pausing naturally to breathe or gather your thoughts is totally fine. The examiner only penalizes language-related hesitation, which happens when you stop repeatedly to search for grammar or vocabulary. So that goes back to answering the question that we had before. Yeah. Pausing naturally to breathe or gather your thoughts is totally fine. Repetition and self-correction. Speaking continuously without constantly fixing, your mistakes or repeating the same words is good. Speaking continuously, good. Without stopping, starting, fixing your mistakes, or repeating the same words or ideas. Repetition is a big issue also in IELTS, speaking, because people do that because they're kind of running out of things to say and they're going over the same thing. And particularly, in part 3, the exam is going to cut you off right away. So we don't really want you to keep repeating the same words and the same ideas. Repeating the same words means that you have poor lexical resource because you can't use other words. You're just using the same thing over and over. So coherence. So this is part of your fluency and coherence, right? But they're joined together. So you also have to consider coherence and what it means to the examiner. It's also fairly simple. An IELTS speaking examiner, coherence means how logically, smoothly, and clearly your ideas are connected. It evaluates how effortless it is for the listener to understand your point of view. That's what coherence is. Your ability to explain things, to connect with the listener, and so it doesn't cause the listener, in this case the examiner, any effort to try to figure out what it is that you're saying. So the three main elements for coherence: direct answers, directly addressing the question asked rather than giving short, disjointed, or irrelevant responses. Some people have been teaching you to, make an introduction when you're being asked a question. You don't need an introduction. You're not giving a lecture. Directly answer the question. Simple. How important is it for people to? The direct answer is very important, moderately important, a bit important, or really, no, not that important, or really not that significant. That's a direct answer. Instead of saying, oh, that's, irrelevant result. Oh, well, that's a very interesting question. Please, can it? Disjointed, short answers. All right. So logical progression, developing your ideas with clear explanations, concrete examples, rather than just listing facts. This happens in part 3 more than anything else. And what happens in part 3 is you're asked a question about, the advantages and the disadvantages, and the candidate starts reciting a list. Oh, well, the advantage would be da 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 and da 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 and da da and da da. Oh, well, okay, but I want those developed. How? Well, we don't want a list of advantages. So what do you say? So you say, well, all right, and you give these examples. So you mentioned two things. You answer the question. What are the advantages? Well, one advantage is da da da, and the other advantage I think is blah blah. And then you go through the explanation. This is because, all right, and then you come up with a concrete example if you can. So that's kind of the, if you want, the formatted, the template type of answer, if you can, particularly in part 3. So logical progression will help you in part 3 because you have a longer answer. It definitely helps you in part 2, but you don't need to worry about it because that's what the prompts are for. You should say, and So you don't have to worry about it. But that's why it's important sometimes to follow the prompts. Because some people will tell you, well, you don't have to follow the prompts. No, you don't. But they are put in a logical progression, and the examiner, has his copy of the same topic card. So they're kind of expecting that you'll go through that process. You don't have to, but it keeps you organized. Why is that important? Well, I just said logical progression. That's one of the elements of coherence. Signposting, we'll talk about these ones. Discourse markers. And what the heck is a discourse marker? All right, so basically, they're linking words. All right, natural connecting to link your sentences to your points, so your points unfold logically. Blah, 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 blah. Then, after which, and then, when you go back again, that's all discourse markers are. Linking words so that you have, why this important, all right? The discourse markers are going to help you with a lot of things, including your grammar score, okay? Because linking words will change simple sentences, right? Into compound or complex or compound complex, sentences, because you use all of those conjunctions, all right? And that's great. So you get good work for grammar as well as coherence. All right, so what coherence is not? Some people, I don't know why they think this or why they've been told, it's not about having a perfect accent. In other words, if I don't have a perfect accent and I have an accent, will I be incoherent? Will the examiner not understand what I'm saying? No. It's about whether your thoughts make sense together, is the first thing, because you can have advanced vocabulary and a flawless, perfect grammar. But if your ideas are all over the place, repetitive or difficult to follow, your score is going to drop. So it's not about the perfect accent. It's not about perfect vocabulary and flow. It's about this idea of logical progression and signposting, all right? Because if your ideas feel scattered, all over the place, not really, what? Repetitive, you've already said that already, or difficult to follow, your score will drop. All right, now, what does vocabulary mean to the IELTS speaking examiner? Remember, the examiners are not doing anything magic. Nothing is a secret here. You know why? Because it's the scoring rubrics, the band descriptors. Everybody has access to them. And so the examiner is just following. All right. Lexical resource is simply a technical term for vocabulary. You know that. Makes up 25% of your total speaking score. It measures your ability, yes, to use words naturally, precisely, and with a wide range. So look at that in detail. Naturally is one thing. Precisely is the other thing. Sometimes we don't use the correct word. We don't use the correct word form, which is kind of a structure that's bad for grammar, right? And with a wide range. So let's talk about this part, because people kind of think that the higher their vocabulary, the more sophisticated their vocabulary, the more it's they'll get a higher band score. Partially true, but not if this is happening all the way through. That's not what's going to give you a good score. So let's look at the criteria. So here it is: variety and range. Highfalutin, high, big, sophisticated academic words is not, all right, going to get you the high score that you think it will. Using a wide variety of words to avoid repeating the same terms. You don't want to keep doing it. If you're going to use a word like plethora, it's great the first time you use it. Not so great the second time you use it. You have to think of something different, because the examiner doesn't want, this is a one-trick pony here. Only knows one trick, only knows one big word. It can't, paraphrase to something else. All right. So this means demonstrating your paraphrasing skills so that it's clear that you are not repeating the examiner's question word for word. That's important. Paraphrasing is a feature that starts in band 5. So avoid repeating the same terms. And every time you paraphrase, you're choosing a synonym or a synonymous phrase, or even, you can use an antonym, all right, to change it around. So paraphrasing skills, not repeating the examiner's question. So that's kind of important too. And some people repeat the question because they need to have a little time. If you have to repeat the question, the examiner's question, a part of your answer, please paraphrase the key word or the key, the key verb or the key noun or something in that sentence. At least you're paraphrasing while they're trying to think. And like I said, this would probably happen more in part 3. But range, okay? Precision, suitability. Choosing exact, natural sounding words for the specific topic rather than overusing, all right, complex, fancy vocabulary that's out of context. So when you're using your lexical resource, just as with grammar, we have this idea of precision, and that's what helps you get over the band 7. Right? That you're using the right word at the right time because it has the correct meaning that you want the examiner to understand. So that's the next one. All right, using words that naturally fit together in English, and so collocations are part of the lexical resource. All right, just like the idiomatic expressions. Saying do instead of play martial arts. I don't play martial arts, I do martial arts. That's a collocation, okay? And you do need to, and I've told you many times, don't memorize, don't memorize. If you have to memorize something, do memorize collocations, which, you know, what words go with other words all the time, okay? In other words, I do martial arts, I don't play martial arts. Honey, would you put the dishes on the table, please? So we don't say, please put the dishes on the table. The collocation is, honey, would you mind setting the table? We set the table. Those kind of things, okay? Using idiomatic items and expressions and natural phrasing correctly to convey your thoughts. Uncommon expressions are a feature of Band 7+. So we've been through those, right? So we talked about it. Again, idioms, collocations, the variety and range of your vocabulary. Don't keep on pushing the high-level academic words. And if you do use a high-level academic word, like ambiguous, ubiquitous, plethora, this kind of thing, that's great, but don't reuse it. Once, please. Grammatical range and accuracy means, what does it mean to an examiner? So now we get into this part. Well, it evaluates how you build your sentences, all right, and how often you make mistakes. Basically, if I wanted to put it even simpler, it's all about counting the number of mistakes you make in grammar. That's where your score is going to end up. Range, same with a lexical resource, a range of vocabulary, also a range of sentence structures. Are you able to use conditionals, relative clauses, change to the active to passive voice, that kind of thing, rather than just simple sentences? And these structures appear as part of the band descriptors at even band 5. So you're definitely going to need to demonstrate this kind of range, excuse me, to get band 7 and higher. All right, how correctly, accuracy, do you form these structures? Examiners expect a mix of simple and complex structures with good control, though a few errors are permitted at band 7 level. So how correctly you form these, these structures? Your tenses here, are your tenses expressed, properly? Are you using the right thing? Are you putting the adverb before the adjective? Are you mixing them up? These kind of things. So we know that you're going to be using those grammatical features, parts of speech, but they have to be also in the right order. Now, you'll see this in the band descriptors, and I'm going to try my best to explain what these terms mean. Although band descriptors use somewhat vague terms like frequent, few, a majority of, when describing grammar mistakes, the general consensus among examiners means this. Okay, so this is what it means. What is frequent? What is a few? And what does it mean? Because you can read those band descriptors and these words show up, but we're not really sure exactly what they mean. And so this is a consensus among examiners. This is what we feel, and this is what we produce. Yeah. Associated with bands 7, 8, and 9, a few what? Well, what it means is you mostly produce error-free sentences. All right. So any mistakes are rare or isolated, meaning a few. Slips of the tongue, you're making a quick, rather than a lack of knowledge. So that's what that means. So when you use few with that, because it means that you're producing mainly error-free sentences, and there are only, and few means to rare mistakes. Okay. And the examiner said, okay, your grammar is highly controlled here. You attempt a wide range of complex structures, like conditional sentences or relative clauses. You attempt a whole bunch of those successfully, and with only minor, occasional options. Minor, occasional, rare, isolated. That's what few means. Target score, band 7 and above. So generalized scores in grammar range and accuracy are. So don't be surprised by this, but this is kind of idiomatic expression, rule of thumb. Band 7, your grammatical range and accuracy, how many error-free sentences? Well, 75% error-free. Band 8, 85% error-free. Band 9, 95% or more, higher, error-free. That's basically it. All right. So a few, and now we've generalized them into these percentages. And particularly, and also, I mean, this is also for, writing as well. How many mistakes I make. And it's not uncommon for examiners to actually count them. Majority, associated with band 6. So what it means, you produce a mix of simple and complex sentence forms, but errors are highly present. In other words, you get the simple sentences, you get the complex sentences, but errors are highly present. In fact, if more than 50% of your sentences contain errors, you'll typically score a band 6 or lower, right? Because you haven't met the 75% good stuff, right? So that's what we're looking for here. So we have to be careful with it. You're attempting more complex grammar, for sure, but your accuracy drops when you do it. So the more complicated the things that you're trying to give the examiner, your accuracy kind of drops. However, okay, the good point. The key to a band 6 is that these frequent errors, all right, rarely cause comprehension problems. So you can stay at a band 6 and not get a lower score if these errors don't cause comprehension problems. In other words, as an examiner, can still understand your message clearly despite the mistakes. So that's right, lots of errors, but I can understand the message. I can get it. You're okay with the band 6. Frequent, associated with bands 5 and 6. So frequent is used in the descriptors as well. So what it means, you rely heavily on basic memorized sentence structures, because attempting more advanced grammar results in repeated mistakes. Examiner's perspective. The dividing line depends on the communication. If you make frequent errors with complex structures, but the meaning remains clear, you're looking at a band 6. If your frequent mistakes cause comprehension problems, forcing the examiner to guess what you mean, like, what? It'll pull your score down to a band 5. So that's the difference, all right? Both candidates make frequent errors, a lot. But, over 50% would. But if your comprehension, okay, clear communication makes, is okay, you can stay at a band 6. But if your frequent mistakes cause the examiner to I'm not really sure what this person is saying or what this person is getting at, then your band score is going to drop. So that's all. So some of those things that you can find in them. All right, overall, all right, don't aim for 100% perfection. Easy to say, and don't do it. It's not necessary. Even native speakers make occasional grammar slip-ups in spontaneous speech. Spontaneous is the exact opposite of memorized, right? So speaking naturally, we make a slip-up, we make a small mistake. Native speakers do as well. So we're not concerned about that. Examiners expect natural errors, not robotic perfection. In fact, robotic perfection is another signal that we're probably looking at a memorized response. Balance, range, and accuracy. Do not just use simple sentences to avoid making mistakes. To hit a band 7 or higher, you must attempt a variety of complex structures, even if you make an occasional error. And to hit a band 7 or higher, you have to attempt these complex structures and use a variety of them. And we know that you make an occasional error, but you're allowed an occasional error in band 7. In fact, you're allowed an error, minor errors in band 8. And even in band 9, rare, one time off maybe, that kind of thing. Right? But you do have to, you have to avoid using the simple sentences and make sure these grammatical structures are a bit more complex. Right? Clarity. Your priority should be ensuring that your errors do not disrupt communication. If you do, then that's an issue. It's a coherence issue. Focusing on fixing systematic errors. All right, this one is okay, like consistent subject-verb agreement or tense mismatches that confuse the listener. So focus on systematic errors, which also show up. Systematic errors show up in the band score descriptors. Right? So these are things like, this is an issue you have that keeps on repeating itself. It's endemic for you in the way that you speak. It's there all the time, and you keep on doing the same thing. You have this problem with subject-verb agreement, or whatever it is, or the tense isn't quite right. So those are the things that you really need to improve upon, and you have to listen to the way you speak, because often the way you speak, because you're speaking English, right? And when you get to the writing test and you're doing writing, now you're writing what you're speaking. So it messes you up in both those skills. So if it's something that happens all the time, then that's why you need to get immediate feedback and you need to get your errors fixed or pointed out to you. Then do that, because this will really, it stays with you for so long. Might be a little bit hard at first, but you have to overcome this. Excuse me. All right, pronunciation. Let's figure out what this is. And again, what it means to the examiner. Speaking in a way that's easy to understand. Bottom line, there you go. Accent is not part of the pronunciation criteria, all right? As long as the responses can be understood by the examiner without much effort, it's fine. There is no deduction for accent. Excuse me again. Native speakers have accents. Native English speakers have accents depending where they come from. People in Wales, in the UK, and Scotland in the UK, and Northern Ireland, and different parts of England in the UK, all have accents. And sometimes we can't understand each other. So that's not, if it can be understood without too much effort, then you're fine. You're not going to get marked down. All right, 5 pronunciation features that we have to think. Individual sounds, like the T, when you're doing the TH, is it the or is it think? Soft or hard, right? Word stress, sentence stress. So when we're talking and we're expressing ourselves, we're expressing excitement or sadness or boredom or whatever, word stress and sentence stress are important because that's connected to intonation. And intonation means, of course, that the volume of your speaking, the volume of what goes up, it goes down, and that's all nicely. The connected speech is something that we looked at before. Remember, we talked about elision and putting those words there, have to, gotta, gonna, all of those kind of things. Yeah. And the sentence stress and the word stress that you would do in a answering, a question. Even in part 1, I think it's important to show this if you can. What did you think? So, what do you think of the concert? Went to last week. What do you think of the concert? Well, you have a couple of ways of answering that. If you liked it and if you didn't like it. I thought it sucked. It was just, it was just so tedious. They couldn't even carry a tune using, expressions like that. Or, well, I thought it was amazing. It was really good. I mean, the band was tight. I mean, you couldn't believe how well they played together. Up and down, stressing certain words, that kind of thing. Right? Expressing your emotions honestly, which you do in natural speech. And when you don't do it, then the examiner doesn't think it's natural speech and that you're sounding kind of robotic and you kind of speaking in a monotone, then the examiner is thinking, oh, memorized, or, you just don't have a connection. In other words, natural speech is composed of all the above, and robotic and monotonal responses are absent. They're not there. And you need to do that. And one way of doing that, particularly in your when you're giving your responses, is, please don't be concerned about being animated. And looking at the, please try to keep eye contact with the examiner. And the animation just simply means that, when you're excited about something, many times, candidates are going to say, and one more thing, it's automatic, or, those kind of things, that kind of body language. You can't force those because you look stupid. And I've actually seen instructors in programs telling them how they can move their body so that they have animation, because that improves their intonation. And it looks so phony. It's like, well, like I said the other day.
No, that way. It is too much.
Well, it's too much. It's fake, and it's distracting.
I'm really happy.
Yeah. What?
I feel over the moon to be here today.
Over the moon.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah. So that's it, I think. Yep.
Oh wow! Wow! It's finished.
Well, yeah, we have a little time for Q&A, I think.
Okay, so we have,
because I haven't finished the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do
How
that.
many examples should I give in one answer?
Either 1 or 2.
Either 1 or 2?
Either, yeah. So I'll explain that. So how many examples should I, give? It depends on the question. If the question is giving you a simple thing like, what's your favorite food? Well, you have a choice. You can give this part 1. You can do 1 or 2, something like that. right? However, if the question says, what are the most popular pets in Vietnam? Pets means more than one. And in speaking and the same thing in writing, what are the advantages of more than one? We don't need three. Okay. But, two is sufficient. Well, it's such, for example, such as and like. Introduce the examples. Examiner knows that you're bringing an example into the conversation, and that's fine. In part one, I don't think that you need any more than one, and you don't usually get questions that ask you to, be plural, and how many, how often do you go to the, how often do you exercise? Not often, actually only about, maybe once a week, sometimes not at all. Stop. Yeah. So, but in part three, there will be some explicit questions that are going to be asking about advantages, disadvantages, or or what kind of issues are facing your country in regards to environmental problems. Yeah.
What do you think is more important, good ideas or good English? Okay.
Well, that again, that sounds like something that Mr. Hugh would ask.
Good ideas.
To give me a hard.
Good English.
Good English.
Or both.
Well, no. I mean, so okay, that's good. How, like, what is more important, good ideas or good English? So in this case, it's very similar to what an examiner asks. Now, what is more important? And at some point, you have to make the choice. And too many candidates sit on the fence. Well, both. I think it depends. Well, yes, it does. But have you answered the question directly? And so I would like to say, what's more important, good ideas or good English? And and I probably get slapped for saying this. In my opinion, good ideas.
Okay.
You can learn English. You can't learn good ideas.
Okay.
That comes from your intellect, your cognition and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that is the end for the Q&A, and I can see that there's no more question. Oh, we have another question that was just pop up. What is this? Students usually struggle with developing their answers in part 3. What would you recommend for improving that? How can learners learn about structuring and finding ideas?
Right. Developing their answers in part 3. They usually struggle. Yeah. Okay. Well, this goes to background and the fact that, unless they have familiarity, with the foreign, with the English language environment, it's going to be somewhat, challenging. So what we're looking, how were they going to do this? Well, you need a lot of background information. This, as the lady is saying, it's part 3, okay? And this is where we're talking about global perspective, or the perspective from the society's point of view, people's point of view, what teachers think, what doctors think, what scientists think, not about what you think. And what we find is that for here, particularly a little bit in Vietnam, there isn't a lot of background information. And when I'm teaching courses of IELTS, whatever it is that is the topic card, for example, or the topic card, because your part 3 questions relate to the topic card. So when you get a topic card, if you're not too familiar with what's happening with that topic, get some background information and start learning. And I always supply my students with a whole bunch of background information. Okay, today you're going to get a topic card, and the topic card is about, all right, so, what are the main social issues, social problems in your country? And so the first thing I do is make sure that they understand what the heck a social issue is. And that they don't start talking about environmental issues or traffic congestion. No, a social issue, poverty, unemployment, lack of education, that type of thing. And then I give them, and then I print out for them all of those ideas that go into being able to deal with that question, regardless of when it comes up. And so what are social issues? What do they mean? And I give the whole list, explain what each of those things mean, and that's it. And so the chances are that if you get a question on social issues, you've got a lot to choose from because you've already looked at it. You're going to choose one, or maybe it says two examples or two ideas, and you're going to explain two in the topic card or in the question. But the idea is, okay, you've got the background information. It's so important. Good candidates read and read and read. And when it comes up to something they're not too sure of, get an overall viewpoint. And that's what instructors should be, and IELTS teachers should be doing. Please, you need to supply the student, okay, with a good general overview, right, of the topic. So yeah, I think that's what they have to do. They have to do it, and I think they rely on their teachers a lot, and that's fine. Okay. If you're too direct, if you're too direct and you're very limited in your knowledge or your response, that's not going to help you if this issue comes up, and you have to have a broader interpretation and a broader answer. Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Chắc là không còn câu hỏi nào nữa đúng không? Thì buổi hôm nay thầy Ben đã dẫn chúng ta nói về chủ đề IELTS speaking, về cái vấn đề là học thuộc, và thầy cũng đã gọi là có những cái đề xuất, những cái gợi ý để chúng ta có thể tránh học thuộc trong IELTS speaking, cũng như là thầy cũng nói về các cái band descriptor, những người giám khảo chấm thi speaking họ muốn những gì từ mình và mình nên làm những gì. Thì đấy là nội dung của buổi livestream ngày hôm nay. Thì thank you Mr. Ben, thank you Mr. Ben for participating in this livestream.
No, it's great. Did you remind them that the documents that we're providing? That you see, we're going to translate. All right, some of these ongoing now. Translate them into Vietnamese so that you can just get, instead of having to come back and then listen to me talk and then
Rồi. Ok, tất cả những gì nội dung thầy nói trên buổi livestream ngày hôm nay thì sẽ được biên soạn chuyển thành dạng bản Word document và sẽ được up lên trên ở dưới phần bình luận này để cho mọi người, các bạn học sinh có thể vào đọc, và nó sẽ được dịch ra tiếng Việt để cho nó dễ hiểu cho cả người học tiếng Anh và những bạn mà cũng cảm thấy hơi khó hiểu một tí nữa. Rồi, ok, đấy là về buổi livestream về nội dung ngày hôm nay, chủ đề IELTS speaking về học thuộc. Thanks Ben for participating in this livestream.
I forgot to welcome you back because I've had different partners.
Lâu lắm rồi mình mới làm việc trở lại cùng với là thầy Ben. Mình làm việc thì khá là ăn ý với nhau. Okay.
And I have no idea what we're doing next week. I have to have a look and see if there was anything left for the speaking, or I might start focusing on the different like what do we do in part one.
Yeah, I think we can discuss that later.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Okay. Now.
Time.
Okay.
Well, we got over the technical problems.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. Rồi, thời gian còn lại thì I'm going to continue with the session.
Oh, what do you have to do?
I'm introducing the AI web. Okay.
Yeah. It's AI web for speaking?
Yeah, AI web for today's listening.
When are you going to do that?
I'm turning the AI web and I'm introducing the listening web.
To who?
To the audiences.
You're going to continue?
Yeah, I'm going to continue.
And are you going to do the speaking one?
No, today is only for listening. Okay. Okay, right. Thank you, Ben. Okay. Rồi, ở thời gian còn lại thì cái web học tập AI Smartcom. Đây. Thì ở trên màn hình hiển thị của mình đây là mình cũng đã đăng nhập vào một cái tài khoản rồi. Và hiện tại bây giờ thì mình sẽ giới thiệu qua cho mọi người về cái web AI Listening. Đây, chúng ta sẽ vào web AI Listening ở bên dưới này. Đây là phần Listening. Thì khi mà chúng ta bấm vào tiếp tục học ở đây, nó sẽ hiển thị ra giao diện của các bài, các dạng trong phần IELTS Listening. Thì ở trong này nó có 15 dạng bài và nó đã được chia ra thành các dạng bài rất là cụ thể ở đây rồi. Thì bây giờ mình sẽ bắt đầu ví dụ vào phần lesson 1 nhá. Mình sẽ vừa làm lại bài tập này. Hồi nãy mình cũng đã có thử làm qua một bài rồi. Thì bây giờ ở trong cái phần Listening AI này, nó sẽ có 5 bài. Đối với mỗi bài ở đây ví dụ như lesson 1 form completion, chúng ta có 5 bài nghe. Ở phần lesson 2 chúng ta cũng có khoảng tầm là 5 bài nghe, và các lesson khác nó cũng tương ứng, nó có 5 bài nghe như thế. Thì bây giờ là chúng ta sẽ vào phần bài đầu tiên đi. Chúng ta chọn bài listening 1, đấy là Summer Folk Festival Information Call. Thì bây giờ chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu hoạt động nhá. Mình đeo tai nghe. Đây. Ok. Rồi. Rồi, mình sẽ bắt đầu hoạt động nha. Thì đây, ở giao diện đây mọi người có thể thấy, đó là giao diện của bài nghe listening. Nó sẽ có đề bài và đoạn hội thoại ở đây. Mình chuyển sang như này cho nó to hơn, cho nó dễ nhìn nhá. Đây, nó có cả cái giao diện hai bên và giao diện toàn bộ như này nữa. Thì phần giao diện toàn bộ ở đây thì phần giao diện chia đôi như này thì thường là chúng ta sẽ sử dụng cho phần reading là chính, bởi vì là phần reading nó sẽ có một cái ô bên trái ở đây để hiển thị bài đọc nữa. Còn đối với phần listening thì để thế này thì nó sẽ hiển thị to hơn và trông nó sẽ dễ quan sát hơn. Ok, thì ở đây chúng ta có hai phần, một phần là phần audio nghe và phần ở dưới là phần điền đáp án nghe. Thì bây giờ mình sẽ thử làm mẫu 1-2 câu. Đây.
You will hear a conversation between a person calling to ask about a traditional UK festival and a festival organizer. This recording is copyright by Smartcom. You will have time to read through the questions before you listen to the recording.
Đó, thì nó sẽ cho mình khoảng thời gian để đọc đúng không? Mình xin phép là tua đến cái đoạn làm luôn nha. Cái này nó chưa tua, được. Chắc là đến khi mà mình check đáp án thì nó sẽ cho mình tua. Đó, chắc bây giờ mình sẽ đợi mình đọc qua đáp án này. Interested in experiencing through British festival start date. Chúng ta hỏi về ngày ở câu số 2. Main location, main site include sẽ có những cái gì? Chúng ta có live music.
Listen and
Traditional
answer
gì
the
đấy.
questions.
Ok, bây giờ chúng ta sẽ vào bài nghe.
Good morning, Summer Folk Festival Information Line. My name is Eleanor. How can I help you today?
Hi, Eleanor. My name is Chris. I'm calling to ask for some information about the Summer Folk Festival. I saw some lovely photos online, and it looked like a really nice community event.
Hello, Chris. Indeed, it's a very warm and welcoming festival. Are you planning to come and join us this year?
Yes, I'm hoping to. I'm interested in experiencing some authentic British traditions. When does the festival usually take place each year?
We hold it annually in the height of summer, and we usually aim for the third weekend of June. This year, however, there's been a change. The main festival days will last a week, starting from the 20th of July instead of June.
Okay, the middle of July. That sounds like a lovely time of year for it. Where exactly is the festival held? Is it in a specific location?
Rồi, ok. Thì hồi nãy mình có làm demo khoảng tầm 2 câu gì đấy. Thì mình có nghe được câu 1 nó nói là tradition và câu 2 nó nói là ngày 20, 20th là ngày 20. Ở những đáp án sau thì mình cũng cứ điền random các đáp án nhá. Đây. Thì khi mà mình ấn nộp bài, hệ thống nó sẽ check cho mình ra những đáp án nào là đúng và đáp án nào là sai, kèm theo những là trích dẫn và giải thích cụ thể. Và ở đây nó có thêm một cái điểm đặc biệt là khi mà mình bấm vào cái ô đáp án tradition ở đây, nó sẽ dẫn cho mình đến cái phần script
Welcoming festival.
ở dưới này.
Are you planning to
Để cho
come
mình
and
biết
join
là
us this
cái đáp
year?
án của mình điền.
Yes, I'm hoping
Để
to.
cho mình biết là cái đáp
I'm
án của
interested
mình
in
điền là nó sẽ
experiencing
nằm thông
some
tin ở đâu trên
authentic
cái
British
script này.
tradition.
Tương tự như vậy đối với những câu sai này Ví dụ mình lấy câu 6, câu mình điền sai đi, mình bấm vào cái từ statues, mình bấm vào cái từ đáp án ở đây,
Opportunities
nó
for
cũng sẽ dẫn
visitors to
mình
join
đến
in
cái
some of the
script,
simpler
cái
dances,
chỗ mà
and
mình
we
bị sai,
usually
nó
have
sẽ giải thích cụ thể
workshops to
ở
join in
trên
some
này
of the
nữa, có
simpler
cả trích dẫn
dances,
và giải thích ở đây
and we
để cho mình
usually
biết
have
được là vì sao mình
workshops
sai
where
và
you can
có thể làm
try your
sao mà mình
hand
làm đúng ở
at
trên này nữa.
making
Đó, thì
statues.
sau khi
That sounds
mà
like a
chúng
great way
ta
to
làm xong phần bài này, chúng ta sẽ đến phòng luyện nghe chuyên sâu. Ở trước đấy nữa thì nó sẽ có hiển thị thêm cả phòng từ vựng. Nhưng mà vì là trước đó mình cũng đã có làm bài này và mình cũng đã trải nghiệm học từ vựng ở trên này rồi, cho nên là bây giờ nó sẽ dẫn mình đến thẳng tới cái phòng luyện nghe chuyên sâu luôn. Thì ở phòng luyện nghe chuyên sâu sẽ là cái phòng để mà chúng ta có thể cải thiện hơn nữa về những cái kỹ năng nghe của mình. Và nó sẽ được chia ra thành 2 bài. Ở đây là những các dạng bài excerpt, và những excerpt này thì nó được trích ra từ cái bài nghe vừa nãy mà chúng ta vừa làm. Nó sẽ trích ra từ những đoạn nhỏ và hệ thống AI nó đã tự xào nấu lại thêm một vài những cái nội dung thông tin ở trong này để có thể hỏi sâu hơn, để chúng ta luyện tập và cải thiện được kỹ năng nghe hiểu. Ở mỗi excerpt thì nó sẽ thường có từ khoảng 3 cho đến 4 câu hỏi tùy dạng excerpt. Chia ra ở mỗi phần là chúng ta sẽ có, ví dụ như là ở excerpt 1, phần đầu tiên chúng ta sẽ nghe lại cái đoạn hội thoại, một đoạn nhỏ nhỏ nào đấy ở trong đoạn hội thoại. Thì ở đây chúng ta có cái là we hold it annually in the height of the summer cho đến là instead of June. Thì khi mình bấm
We
phát đoạn hội
hold it
thoại nó sẽ nói cái đoạn
annually in
đấy.
the height of summer, and we usually
Đó, tiếp theo đấy, khi mà nghe xong rồi, chúng ta sẽ đến phần thứ hai là sẽ làm các cái dạng bài tập câu hỏi trắc nghiệm ở dưới này. Ví dụ như là câu 2 là based on the excerpt, what are the usual dates for the main festival day? Dựa vào đoạn hội thoại mình vừa nghe thì cái ngày usual, tức là cái ngày mà thường diễn ra cái lễ hội chính sẽ là vào ngày bao nhiêu? Đó, vậy thì bây giờ mình sẽ nghe thử câu này nhá.
We hold it annually in the height of summer, and we usually aim for the third weekend of June. This year, however, there's been a change.
Ok, thì vừa nãy người ta vừa bảo là third weekend of June là ngày thường diễn ra. Sau đấy người ta nói thêm là this year there will be a change, nghĩa là ngày thường chúng ta sẽ diễn ra vào khoảng tuần thứ 3 của tháng 6. Vậy thì đáp án nó sẽ là đáp án D đúng không? Bây giờ chúng ta nộp bài này. Đó, như vậy đáp án sẽ là đáp án đúng. Ở đây thì nó cũng có cái phát đoạn hội thoại để mình có thể nghe lại kèm theo là giải thích nữa. Rồi, khi mà mình làm xong thì mình ấn tiếp theo và làm các dạng bài tương tự thôi. Ví dụ ở đây mình chọn sai chẳng hạn. Đó, thì nó sẽ có giải thích chi tiết cụ thể vì sao mình sai và cũng có đoạn hội thoại này cho mình nghe lại. Đó, tương tự như vậy, ở câu số 4 này thì nó là một dạng bài khác. Nó sẽ là mình nghe bài này và mình sẽ nghe và mình chép chính tả ra. Thì cái phần này nó sẽ giúp cho mình cải thiện kỹ năng nghe chính xác của mình hơn. Thì ở đây cái đoạn file nghe nó dài 16 giây. Ví dụ
We
mình nghe
hold
thử
it
nhé.
annually in the height of summer,
We hold it annually in the height of mình đánh máy hơi ấy, height of summer. Ok, xong rồi đoạn sau đấy nữa thì mình đang ví dụ thế, xong mình ấn nộp bài này.
Bạn đã nỗ lực hoàn thành bài tập này.
Đó thì nó sẽ
Tuy nhiên, kết quả
có
hiện tại cho thấy bạn cần dành thêm thời gian để làm quen với mặt chữ và cách phát âm cơ bản trước khi thử sức lại nhé.
Ok, thì nó sẽ có cái phần audio AI, xong rồi nó cũng sẽ có những cái phần nhận xét tổng quan này, nó sẽ nhận xét cái đúng của mình ở đâu, cái sai của mình ở đâu, cái nào mà mình còn thiếu. Và ở đây cũng có cái phần phát lại hội thoại. Và ngoài ra thì nó cũng cho mình thêm một cái đáp án mẫu ở dưới này. Thực ra là hai cái này ở trên này thì nó cũng giống nhau thôi. Đó, thì như vừa nãy mình nghe và mình nhập đúng không? Thì mình nhập được đúng từ đây cho đến là in the height of summer. Đoạn sau thì mình chưa nghe cho nên là nó sẽ để là đang còn thiếu ở đây. Từ cái đoạn and we usually aim for ở đây. Nó giải thích rất là chi tiết và học rất là dễ. Bên cạnh đấy thì ở trên cái góc phía bên phải bên trên của cái phần giải thích này thì nó cũng có được chia ra làm hai ngôn ngữ là tiếng
You've
Anh
made an effort
và tiếng
bạn
Việt.
đã nỗ lực hoàn
Thì
thành bài
đối
tập
với người
này.
học người ta thích để
Tuy
tiếng Việt
nhiên,
thì
kết
có
quả
thể bấm
hiện
vào
tại
đây.
cho thấy
Và
bạn
đối với
cần
người
dành
học
thêm
mà
thời
thích
gian
để là ngôn ngữ
để
tiếng Anh thì người
You've
ta có thể
made
bấm
an
vào đây.
effort.
Đó, và nó cũng đều có các voice audio tương ứng như thế. Rồi, tương tự như vậy giao diện làm bài nó cũng có hai cái là tiếng Việt và tiếng Anh nha, để cho mọi người có thể thích để ngôn ngữ nào thì mọi người để ngôn ngữ như thế. Ở phần excerpt 2 nó cũng tương tự như vậy thôi, nó cũng là có 4 phần như này để cho mọi người làm. Đó, và những dạng bài này là những dạng bài được biên soạn bởi AI và đội ngũ Smartcom, và họ đã tạo ra được những cái bài nghe mà nó có thể giúp cải thiện được cái kỹ năng nghe của học sinh cách rất là chi tiết, giải thích rất là chi tiết và làm rất là ok. Đó, thì đây là về dạng bài listening. Thì khi mà mình đã làm xong hết tất cả các dạng bài ở đây rồi thì các cái bài sau đây nó sẽ tự động mở ra. Đây mình ví dụ nhé. Mình ví dụ như là excerpt 2 đi. Mình ví dụ excerpt 2. Mình làm tượng trưng thôi nhá. Đó. Mình làm tượng trưng thôi nha.
Your current performance.
Ok. Đó, thì khi mình làm xong cái phần listening 1 thì nó sẽ nhảy sang cho mình phần listening 2. Và chúng ta cũng sẽ tiếp tục luyện tập như thế. Thì ở bài listening 2 ở đây thì hình như là mình chưa làm thì phải. Thì đây, khi mà mình làm xong, nó sẽ hiển thị giao diện cho mình đến với là phòng từ vựng trước. Nó sẽ hiển thị cho mình giao diện đến phòng từ vựng trước. Đây. Thì đây sẽ hiển thị phòng từ vựng cho mình để mình có thể học tập những cái từ vựng nào mà mình chưa được học. Đó, ví dụ chúng ta có từ pick up point này, có cả IPA này, xong rồi
Pick
phát
up
âm
point.
này. Đó, xong rồi chúng ta có cả phân loại từ A1, A2, từ A1 đến C2, xong rồi nghĩa này, rồi là cả ví dụ cung cấp này, rất là chi tiết luôn. Bên cạnh đấy thì chúng ta cũng sẽ có những cái hoạt động luyện tập như là card matching. Chúng ta sẽ luyện tập từ vựng, ví dụ như là issue là vấn đề, đúng không? Xong rồi up for grab là căn hộ chẳng hạn. Đấy sai chúng ta sẽ chọn lại. Up for grab là ví dụ là đón ai đấy. Đó. Và chúng ta còn có thêm một hoạt động nữa là drag and drop. Thì nó cũng là một hoạt động khác của dạng luyện từ vựng. Ví dụ mình chọn đây. Đó, chọn hết đi chẳng hạn. Đây là mình chọn tượng trưng thôi nhá. Đó, xong rồi mình chọn tiếp này. Đây. Ôi, tận 5 phần à. Đây, mình kéo nhanh nhá. Đấy. Ok. Mình không thích kéo, mình lại thích bấm cơ. Đó. Đây, ok. Rồi, đó, thì khi mà mình làm xong thì nó cũng sẽ cho mình những cái nhận xét đánh giá như này. Tổng số câu làm đúng, làm sai bao nhiêu, mức độ hoàn thành, thời gian hoàn thành là như nào. Xong rồi nếu mà mình muốn học tiếp hay mình muốn chơi lại thì mình có thể bấm vào một trong hai nút ở đây. Rồi, thì sau khi mà mình học xong, nó sẽ lại tiếp tục dẫn mình sang phòng intensive, phòng luyện nghe chuyên sâu. Và nó cũng sẽ lặp lại quy trình như này. Đó, và ở mỗi dạng bài đã được chia sẵn ở đây, chúng ta có 15 dạng bài này, được chia ra rất chi tiết và đều được hệ thống AI nó tạo ra các dạng bài như thế này để cho mình có thể luyện tập và cải thiện được cái kỹ năng nghe của mình dần dần lên. Và gần như là những cái bài ở đây nó cũng đều được cá nhân hóa rồi. Đó, thì đây là về dạng bài, đây là về hệ thống học liệu AI listening của Smartcom. Rất là chi tiết. Và nếu như mà các bạn đăng ký khóa học thì các bạn hoàn toàn có thể vào đây được trải nghiệm cái hệ thống này. Rất là ok. Rất là ok. Đó, mình có trải nghiệm rồi. Rất là ok luôn. Hiển thị ok này. Chi tiết này. Tiếng Anh, tiếng Việt, thích ai để tiếng Anh thì để tiếng Anh, ai để tiếng Việt thì để tiếng Việt này. Nghe xong thì có giải thích đáp án cụ thể này. Rồi, thì đấy là về cái hệ thống cũng như là toàn bộ về buổi livestream của ngày hôm nay. Thì thầy Ben cũng đã hướng dẫn, thầy Ben cũng đã gọi là chia sẻ thêm về cái vấn đề học thuộc trong IELTS speaking, và thầy cũng đã định hướng được cách để tránh học thuộc, và cũng như là thầy cũng chia sẻ về những thứ mà thực sự là giám khảo người ta muốn gì đối với người thi IELTS speaking. Đó, và ngoài ra thì bên cạnh đấy thì mình cũng đã giới thiệu thêm qua về cái hệ thống học AI listening của Smartcom. Thì nếu các bạn đăng ký khóa học thì các bạn sẽ hoàn toàn được trải nghiệm cái hệ thống này, web này, các bạn sẽ được cung cấp tài khoản. Và bên cạnh đấy nếu như mà các bạn đăng ký thì các bạn cũng sẽ được cung cấp một tài khoản miễn phí để các bạn có thể vào đây để trải nghiệm luôn. Ok, như vậy là buổi livestream buổi livestream về chủ đề IELTS Speaking đến đây là kết thúc. Thì mình mong là các bạn cũng đã hiểu được thêm về những cái kỹ năng làm sao để thực chiến IELTS Speaking hiệu quả hơn. Đó, cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi buổi livestream đến tận bây giờ. Và chắc là mình xin phép là kết thúc buổi livestream ở đây thôi. Cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi. Bye bye các bạn.